Okay, this is Unit 4, Day 3, Part 1 of our notes. And I have here two lines. These are parallel, and these are cut by a third line, and the third one that goes across the other ones is called the transversal, and I've labeled it here already. And we've basically divided up this space into several different things. You see we have 8 angles here, and I've numbered them, so it's just easier to keep track of them. And they could be numbered in any order. This is just the order I've put them for now. This basically has been divided up into a couple of parts. And I went ahead and colored this, and you should color yours. This part here is inside these two lines. Notice it's inside those two lines, so we call that interior. Just like we talked about interior before, that's the interior. Then over here, this is the exterior of these lines. And this part over here, also the exterior. So inside and outside. The other thing we have is a relationship in these angles. If you notice, if this line and this one is parallel, if I take this and slide it down and match it up exactly with this, angle 1 and 5 would match up exactly, and they'd be the same size. So if you imagine I take this over and slide it down here, they would be exactly the same size there. So all 4 of these are exactly the same size as all 4 of those. We also see that like 1 and 3 are vertical angles, so we know those are also the same. So we're going to talk about some new angles. We still have vertical angles, and we still know that, say, these two on this side of the straight line are supplementary, just like we had before. So what we're saying is not only are these two the same, but if I slide them down, they're going to match up with these over here. So we're going to talk about several different names. The first kind of problems are corresponding. So I'm going to color the corresponding one. So the corresponding ones means the ones that match up. So like 1, if I slid this over and matched it up with this, 1 would go with 5. And what do you notice about the size of angle 1 and the size of angle 5? Well, those are congruent. They're going to be the same. They're going to be exactly the same size. And remember, this is the symbol for congruent that we drew before. So 1 and 5 are the same. And then see if you can figure out the other ones. I've gone through and colored the ones that match here, so you might want to pause the video and color. 1 went with 5, 2 went with 6, and you'll notice that they look the same size there because they are in fact congruent. 4 and 8 are congruent, and 3 and 7 are congruent. You should color yours so that you can come back and look at which ones are congruent with which ones. And those are called corresponding. They're the ones that match up if I move it over. Okay, then the other 4 you have at the bottom here, you'll notice these are both exterior, and these are both interior. So the exterior ones, I'm talking about ones that are on the outside up here, like we talked about. Then the difference here is alternate or same side. Well, we're talking about of the transversal. Remember that this line in the middle was called the transversal. So I'm talking about whether they're on the same side of the transversal or alternate sides. Alternate means one side and then the other. So alternate means I have one on one side and one on the other. So for instance, these are on the exterior, so we're talking about outside here, and this one on this side, and then on the other side of this line here. Alternating top and bottom. So 1 and 7 are alternate exterior angles. Exterior because they're on the outside here. And what do you notice about those angles? Do they look like they're the same size? They are. They're congruent. So that's angle 1 and angle 7. What else is on the outside? Well, if we look, the outside is 4 and 6, so that's the other ones. And you should notice that those are also the same, 4 and 6. As compared to the same side angles, so now I'm talking about ones that are on the same side of this transversal. So the same side of the transversal, both on the top, but also both on the outside. Well, that would be angles 1 and 6. But are those the same size? I went in and colored 1 and 6 that we were talking about. And are those the same size? Well, they certainly don't look like it. This one is obtuse, and this one is acute. So they're not the same size. But what do you think is true? If I slid this one over here, it would exactly match up with that one and make a straight line, because those are supplementary. They add up to 180. So angle 1 plus angle 6 equals 180. And likewise, we could say the same thing here. Exterior again, so these exterior that are on the bottom of the line, those are same side exterior. And likewise, these two would add up to 180. So that's angle 4 and angle 7. Now, so this side, we have the exterior alternate ones, and the same side exterior, we're going to have the same thing over here. I colored in interior angles on alternate sides of the transversal. So this is on the top and the bottom. Interior, and what do we notice about them? They're congruent, just like the alternate were congruent over here. These are both the same size. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Colored in angle 3 and angle 5, and those two are congruent. They're on both sides of the line, so they're alternate. They're on the inside of our parallel lines, and they're the same size. This one and this one. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 5. Down here, we're now talking about the inside ones, but on the same side. So on the same side of my transversal, like both of these on top, and they're on the interior of my parallel lines. So what about angle 2 and 5? Are they the same size? No, they're supplementary, just like the ones over here were. So 2 plus 5 equals 180, and angle 3 and angle 8 equal 180. We now have here on this page a handy reference guide that shows us exactly which ones are corresponding, exactly which ones are each of these other kinds. And remember, we're talking about the positions here, and it would work just as well if I had my parallel lines facing like this or any other direction. We're talking about the positions here, not necessarily the names, the numbers of the angles, but the positions. The alternate interior like these two or these two.